Dim light filters through a dusty window of a forgotten archive room. The camera slowly glides along rows of metal filing cabinets, their faded labels barely legible. Orion Blue, classified. A pair of gloved hands pulls out a thick folder wrapped in faded blue cloth. A crumpled sheet of paper lies on the floor. Fresh boot prints nearby. A low-frequency hum vibrates softly as if escaping from a distant speaker. Suddenly, a sharp cut. In 1967, within a small coastal research facility, an experiment began that many military scientists still call the strangest project of its era. The program bore the code name Blue Orion, officially tasked with developing new methods of soft influence over crowds without the use of weapons. However, researchers believe the true goal was more unsettling, exploring the power of low-frequency sound waves to manipulate human emotional states. Tens of physicists, neuroscientists, and engineers gathered from across the country, ostensibly to prevent riots. Unofficially, to test what had once been dismissed as science fiction, one partially declassified report notes. Group number 4 observed a marked correlation between the 14.3 Hz frequency and transient reductions in subject aggression. The rest of the text is blacked out. Prototype devices were housed in metal containers mounted on trucks. According to a participant, an engineer named Harrison, name changed, early trials caused volunteers to feel a weight pressing on their chests, brief episodes of panic, and an inexplicable sense of unease. Developers recalled that after hours near the generators, they experienced gray spots in peripheral vision and slowed speech, yet the project expanded. By 1971, devices could operate up to 3 kilometers away. Reports surfaced of side effects beyond emotional changes, sleep disturbances, vivid dreams, brief memory lapses. An archive photo shows a group of engineers standing by a massive steel cylinder wired with dozens of cables. A handwritten note reads, "Do not operate with hangar doors open." Why? No official explanation has ever been given. Cliffhanger. The following year, an incident nearly shut down Blue Orion for good. The incident occurred in spring 1972 at a desert testing site. Officially, an uncontrolled resonance was reported. Witnesses said the hangar shook violently as if the very air thickened. 3 employees lost consciousness. 1 suffered severe coordination issues lasting a week. Instruments detected a spike in sound waves outside the range, thought to affect consciousness. The safety protocols were overhauled. Experiments banned in confined spaces. Personnel must stay 20 meters from active generators. Visual alerts replaced auditory alarms. Yet another handwritten note reads, "Strong emotional agitation observed among staff. External calm masking inner panic." By 1974, field tests began in small towns without prior notice, officially testing public emergency communication systems. Unofficially, trials to see if low-frequency noise could suppress panic during drills. Locals reported pressure in temples, overwhelming fatigue, transient apathy. Researchers whispered, "If our goal was calm, we may have created the opposite." The project's influence grew, moving into Phase 5, studying long-term effects. Volunteers lived for weeks in buildings rigged with hidden generators. Their diaries contained eerie entries. Woke feeling the air vibrate. Can't recall last night's conversation. Walls seem to breathe. Officials claimed no significant adverse effects detected. Cliffhanger. But everything changed in 1978 when the program received a report later called its most dangerous document. Report ORION/87-12/INT came from independent doctors evaluating long-term volunteers. It stated, certain low-frequency ranges induce lasting changes in emotional baseline. The longer the exposure, the stronger the effect. The word lasting triggered alarm. Could emotions be locked in for days or weeks? Was Blue Orion capable of turning people calm, or something far worse? Simultaneously, lab workers reported hallucinatory flashes, sharp images without cause. One engineer claimed hearing voices beneath the generator hum, even when equipment was off. The project split into two paths: official, anti-panic tech; covert, acoustic behavioral control. In late 1970s internal audits, a tape was found showing volunteers in a dark room, their breathing sinking after minutes. The faint hum underneath was unmistakable. Developers insisted the tech was safe, but one uncensored memo warned, if released beyond lab walls, consequences may spiral beyond control. Cliffhanger. And yet it was released, just not where the creators expected. In 1981, one Blue Orion container was transferred to a shadowy research branch. The transfer protocol remains heavily redacted. Sources say experiments began testing remote mass influence, mobile sound platforms, trucks with giant speaker arrays were deployed, officially for emergency communication testing, unofficially for creating low-frequency backgrounds influencing crowd emotions. Strange anomalies were recorded. Disputes abruptly ended. Crowds moved in eerie unison. Brief disorientation episodes. A technician later recalled, "At 38 seconds, everything fell silent, like the sound switched off emotions." By 1984, the program was shut down without explanation. Officially for low efficacy, internally, risks outweighed benefits. Rumors say some tech was destroyed, some locked away. Only partial archives were released. The most sensitive files on true effects remain classified. Cliffhanger. One rarely mentioned post-closure document raises the question, where did Blue Orion's technology really go? In 1992, a partially declassified note surfaced. Device number 4 transferred to Communications Division. The division name is blacked out. Experts believe the tech never vanished, only changed forms, perhaps adapted for structured spaces, tunnels, stadiums, underground sites. Hints appear in reports of odd acoustic effects through the 90s and early 2000s. Others suspect development moved into digital simulations, predicting crowd emotions, not devices, but algorithms, not sound, but modeling. Truth remains unknown, but Blue Orion stands as one of the 20th century's most mysterious acoustic experiments. Hundreds of pages remain sealed, and dozens of insiders say the side effects were far worse than admitted done. You want me to keep going with this, or pick a new topic? Despite warnings, the program intensified. By 1978, Blue Orion had begun long-term exposure tests. Volunteers were asked to live for weeks in controlled environments where frequencies could be subtly adjusted throughout the day. Their living quarters looked ordinary, but emitters were hidden inside walls and ceilings. The diaries of those volunteers later became part of a classified annex. Excerpts include entries describing vibrating walls, unusual dreams, and disorientation upon waking. Some wrote about fragmented memories, entire conversations that vanished from their minds. A few reported heightened emotional sensitivity, while others described emotional numbness. These long-term tests caught the attention of independent medical evaluators who produced a heavily classified document now known as ORION/87-12/INT. Its conclusion was stark. Certain frequencies produce lasting emotional shifts, not temporary, but persistent changes in baseline emotional state. The implications were clear. Blue Orion had accidentally discovered a crude form of emotional conditioning. The response inside the project was divided. Enthusiasts viewed the findings as confirmation of their theories. Skeptics warned of psychological dangers. A few quietly argued that the technology should be dismantled. But instead of shutting it down, higher authorities redirected Blue Orion. In 1981, the program shifted to a more secretive division. Equipment was transferred under heavy guard. New mobile emitter platforms were developed. Large trucks with reinforced panels concealing complex speaker arrays. Field operations began shortly after, focusing on crowd dynamics. Operators noted unsettling phenomena. Groups moving in synchronized patterns, sudden silences among large gatherings, moments where individuals looked confused or disconnected from their surroundings. One technician later testified that during a test, a generator was pushed beyond safe limits. At 38 seconds, he said, everyone stopped talking. They didn't look calm. They looked emptied out, like someone had turned a switch. The internal review that followed recommended immediate restructuring. Within 3 years, in 1984, Blue Orion was quietly dissolved, officially due to limited operational viability, unofficially due to fears that the technology's effects were unpredictable and potentially harmful. Yet dissolution did not mean destruction. A document discovered in 1992 states that at least one device, Unit 4, was transferred to an unnamed communications division. What happened next remains unknown. Some believe Blue Orion's research continued under new project names. Others think the technology was archived, awaiting resurrection in a future era of more advanced computational modeling. There are whispers that parts of the technology were adapted for use in large enclosed structures, such as tunnels or stadiums, places where low-frequency sound naturally resonates. Others claim digital simulations based on Blue Orion's data now inform algorithms that predict crowd behavior. What is certain is that Project Blue Orion left behind more questions than answers. Its archives are incomplete, with critical section redacted or missing entirely. Those who worked on the project speak cautiously, as though uncertain of what they experienced or unwilling to revisit memories shaped by the very frequencies they studied. And the physical evidence, the generators, the emitters, the resonance chambers, has largely vanished into storage facilities whose locations are not publicly known. But one truth lingers. Blue Orion proved that emotion is not beyond influence. That sound, barely perceptible or entirely inaudible, can alter perception, mood, and behavior in ways not fully understood even today. The implications of such a discovery stretch far beyond the program itself, raising questions about the boundaries between technology, psychology, and the fundamental autonomy of human emotion. And perhaps the most unsettling question remains unanswered. If Blue Orion was only the beginning, what came next?